you have to be that shrewd, that disciplined, and that strategic moving forward as well, because now you have greater responsibility. Hi, my name's Devin. Today I own several multi-million-dollar companies. We started with $5,000 in a credit card. I don't know the easy way. I only know the hard way. Hey everybody, welcome to the Whiteboard Entrepreneur Podcast, where I give straightforward advice to fuel the entrepreneur in all of us. I'm Devin Dickinson, and today I want to talk to you about what do you do once you finally make money in your company. And this is the exciting part, right? Because a lot of times I focus on, the challenges and, the right mindset to overcome those obstacles. But hey, you've been doing it for a while and now you're making some money. And this is where I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs start to make some poor decisions. And so I think it's very important that we have this conversation, because I've seen many a successful company fall because, ironically enough, they become successful. And so let's talk about this. So what happens, in my opinion, is, having been an entrepreneur, I understand the entrepreneurial mind. And the reason you get into this is because you're very competitive. You want to build something. You have energy and excitement. And really, at the end of the day, you want to succeed. And part of succeeding, obviously, is financial success, right? It's not all about success. It's not all about succeeding, but certainly there should be fruits of your labor that you put in. And never apologize for making money, right? Like don't ever feel bad about it. And I do a podcast about that. But at the end of the day, let's say you've been doing this 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, right? And now you're really making money and you're doing great, and you're getting those first big paychecks. And I mean, really big paychecks where you're like, oh my gosh, I just made more in this paycheck than I made last year, right? And you get those type of paychecks, and it becomes incredibly exciting, but also can mess with your mind. And this is where I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs go wrong. And what happens is, for years you've sacrificed. I've told the story that when I started, that for years that we didn't have new furniture. We had Goodwill and dumpster furniture in our house, right? And so imagine you have Goodwill and dumpster furniture in your house, and you and your wife have been sharing the same vehicle for 2 years, which is where we were. And all of a sudden you get a paycheck that's wow, this is substantial, right? And so the human nature inside of you wants to believe that you have finally made it. Wants to believe that wow, I'm now making this much money this last month, multiply that by 12, and that's my new paycheck. That's how much I make a year. And by the way, hey, look at this growth rate that we're on. So actually next year it's going to be 2 or 3 times that. And so all of a sudden you go from this mindset of frugality, and you go from this mindset of conservative to yeah, I've made it. And next thing you want to do is you swap out all your Goodwill furniture, and instead of going from 1 car in the garage, you go to 3, and one of them's a Lamborghini, the other's a Ferrari, and the other's G-Wagon, right? And next thing you know, your car's full, or your garage is full of all these cars, and you're living what you believe are the fruits of your labor. And again, I'm not telling you to apologize for making money, and I'm not telling you to live like a pauper, but this happens to many a company where they finally get that success, and they finally get those really great months, but they miscalculated something, right? There's some cash flow issues, or let's say you lose your biggest customer, right? Or let's say, hey, you're trying to continue that growth rate. So, hey, business is successful, but you just hired 3 new salespeople that you've got to pay for. All of a sudden, that profit that you thought you were going to have is cut in half, right? And so there's this mindset that people think, I've made it. I'm now going to act and live like this gazillionaire that I've always dreamed of being, that I've worked so hard to become. And they change their lifestyle overnight, and they go and get the really nice office, and everybody gets raises, and all of these things happen. And next thing you know, the wind changes directions in the economy, and all of a sudden there's a pullback, or all of a sudden a new competitor shows up, or all of a sudden, there's some pricing competition going on, or interest rates, or COVID, or you name it, or you make a freaking bad decision, right? Like anything can go wrong in business. And I'm not telling you to live in fear, but I am telling you to be wise in how you grow your spending and how you grow your company. Typically, what I do is my growth rate and my profit, I balance against each other. We've talked about this before. I try to hit that rule of 40s, right? Where I don't hit so much growth that I have no profit, or I have so much profit that I have no growth. So that's kind of a balance within my company. Also, when I'm investing in my company, this is where I use that CLTV to CAC calculation to make sure that when I'm investing in my company, that I'm getting the desired return from that investment. And so these are incredible, right? To think about how you manage your company financials, but then not only your company financials, now manage your personal financials, right? So if you're going to be that diligent managing your company financials, you need to manage your personal financials the exact same way. So you don't have this debt to equity ratios that don't make sense for your living. Even though you've been so frugal for so long, don't all of a sudden flip overnight and start leveraging your personal life such that you can't weather a pullback, because you're going to add to your stress, and all of that joy and all of those successes and everything that you've worked for overnight are going to be stripped. And even if there is a beautiful brand new Ferrari in your freaking garage, if you can't sleep at night, you're going to hate that Ferrari. You're going to hate your life, and you're going to just have destroyed everything that you spent all that time working for. And so you have to keep your mindset correct as your company grows, as you grow financially. Are you saving? How much are you saving each month? How much are you reinvesting in your company each month? Personally, how much are you saving for yourself personally? How much are you paying down on debt? What does your savings accounts look like? What other, where else are you investing outside of your company? Because if your company, something happens to your company, what else are you investing in? And so these are what we have to do. So when you start to get those giant checks that come in, and you know what I'm talking about, because you probably have had one or two of those giant checks. You can't start doing that math in your head and saying, wow, I got a $40,000 check, so multiply that by 12, that's $500,000. Next year, I'm probably going to double that. So you know what? Time to buy the Ferrari, right? Like, you can't start thinking like that, right? Because things can change, right? You have to, the diligence and the shrewdness and the discipline that you had to take you from where you were to where you are, you have to be that shrewd, that disciplined, and that strategic moving forward as well, because now you have greater responsibility. So just because you have greater responsibility doesn't mean that you shrug off all that discipline, all that frugality, all that shrewdness you had before. Use that same wisdom that got you from point A to point B to eventually point Z, right? And enjoy it. I'm not telling you to not enjoy your finances, but realize that just because you start to get some success, don't change your habits overnight. I'm Devin, and this is Whiteboard Entrepreneur Podcast, and learn this now and it will help you.